Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Eric H526, Luke St. Martin, the two best moderators in all of YouTube. Thank you. Thank you so much for just being amazing moderators. To my super chat, thank you for giving me like every incentive to rock these live streams. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. I have really like the most wonderful viewers. Not just because of the super chat, because you wake up or you wait up for a live stream late in the evening. It's 11 p.m. Pacific, my time, and I just thank you. So I was thinking, like, should I do an upload? I did say I was going to do a live stream, so let's do a live stream this evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very interesting. And it says everything you need to know about... Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gnarly. Thank you. Everyone, thank you. Benjamin, thank you. Drew, hello. This says everything you need to know about the Republican Party. And I want to read you this. Trump urges backers to send donations directly to his PAC rather than GOP. This is hilarious, and I'm glad he's battling Republicans on this. They went after him, and they undermined him, and they threw him under the bus for the past 4 years. They sided with Democrats. They utilized a dossier purchased by Clinton. He never worked with Russia. That's probably the most absurd nonsense that you'll ever hear in your life. He never worked with Russia to purchase Facebook ads. And it's like you have to have like zero understanding in how politics works to truly believe that there was ever even a reason to investigate Trump. They said, look, President Trump, there were missteps, there were things that he did, or things that he said that he shouldn't have said. There were missteps. However, in terms of accomplishments, he was a great president. He was able to accomplish great things. The Abraham Accords is a tremendous foreign policy accomplishment. Being the first president to step foot in North Korea is a paradigm-changing foreign policy accomplishment. Removing Americans from never-ending conflict, from perpetual counterinsurgency conflicts, that is a great thing. He was not an establishment candidate. He had a more populist foreign policy, and he had more populist policies. Engaging in tariffs rather than the Trans-Pacific Partnership is better for the country. Tariffs are a short-term economic, short-term tactic if you're dealing with an economy that will eventually surpass your own economy. You can look. President Trump allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. He signed prison reform legislation. So there were things that he was able to do. Luke St. Martin, hello. Joey, hello. Toy, hello. Creating Wingless, hello. There were things that he was able to do, ladies and gentlemen, that a Republican, so like the knock on President Trump initially was, well, a normal Republican wouldn't do the things that he's doing. Yes, that's true. That's why he won. That's why he was president for 4 years. That's why 74 million Americans chose President Trump. That's why. You keep on hearing, it's funny, like, a lot of his detractors inadvertently point out exactly why Trump is popular. They don't get it. They're so clueless. I've had people tell me, oh, I'd vote for Mitt Romney. It's like, that's exactly why I'm voting for Trump. And you have... Well, let's just read this. Trump urges backers to send donations directly to his PAC rather than GOP. RNC defends use of Trump's name in its fundraising. So they set him up and framed him for the past 4 years. They sided with Democrats. And instead of they sided with Democrats, and it's like now they want to utilize his likeness, his name, his accomplishments for national fundraising because they do not have the ability to raise any money. They don't have the ability to raise any money with the current Republican Party. What are you going to do? Say, hey, this is the party of Ben Sass. Want to donate? This is an amazing political party. This is the party of Mitt Romney. Nobody wants, they don't get that president, they don't get that Trump offers something Republicans don't offer. They don't acknowledge that. And so now they're stuck. They're actually in a really, really bad situation because Trump is he's not going to allow he's not going to allow a political party to simply raise funds off of his name or likeness or brand after they spent 4 years trying to, in many ways, distance themselves from Trump. They tried to derive every single ounce of political utility from President Trump, while at the same time keeping him at bay, reining him in. And it's well, now you've gotten what you wanted. And even Lindsey Graham is oh yeah, well, President Trump, it's a difficult situation. Luke St. Martin, hello. Eric, hello. Insubordinate, hello. Paul, hello. Alice, hello. Gonzalez 131, hello. It's an interesting situation now because what are they going to do? When you hear the name Mitt Romney, when you hear the name Ben Sass or Cheney or Kinzinger or any or Mitch McConnell, everybody, donate to the national campaign. I'm the face of the Republican Party. I bring so much enthusiasm and electricity. I'll just read you this. Washington, the Republican National Committee is defending its right to use former President Donald Trump's name in fundraising appeals after he demanded they put an end to the practice. In a Monday letter to Trump attorney, RNC chief counsel said the committee, quote, has every right to refer to public individuals, are you kidding me, as it engages in core First Amendment protected political speech. Public individuals? What? You mean the same politician, the same president that Republicans investigated in the Senate panel with Richard Burr, that Jeff Sessions investigated through a Mueller probe, that Republicans it was Republicans that utilized the dossier, not initially. The dossier was purchased and created by Clinton and the DNC. But Republicans allowed this dossier, once it was created by the DNC and Clinton, to be utilized to investigate a Republican president. Why should Trump go along with them? Why should Trump go along with them? This is unbelievable. I mean, it's really unbelievable. It's pretty unbelievable when you think about, let's just read this. So it will continue to do so in pursuit of these common goals. So this is interesting. The Republicans are saying, they're not saying that they have a right because he's a Republican president. They say they have a right to raise money because of the First Amendment. Yeah, but the First Amendment doesn't. You can't do that. You can't pick a celebrity, a Hollywood celebrity, and say, yeah, this celebrity stands by my business. You can't do that. That's why you have contracts with, athletes or celebrities, or that's why you have endorsement deals. You can't just simply say that, oh yeah, this rock and roll band or this athlete or this football player uses my product. This celebrity, this Academy Award winning actor uses my product. See? Isn't this fantastic? It's my First Amendment right, You can't do that. He's a Republican president, yeah, but so what? The Republicans were never there for Trump. That's part of the whole point. That's like what's gone on the past year. There's been basically one-party rule. You've basically had one-party rule for the past year. And it's unfortunate. But he maintained that Trump had also reaffirmed to the chair of the RNC, Ronna McDaniel, over the weekend, quote, that he approves the RNC's current use of his name in fundraising and other materials, including for our upcoming donor retreat event at Palm Beach. What? At which we look forward to him participating. It's like, this is really hilarious. You had 7 Republicans vote to convict President Trump. You had 7 Republicans. Where was the Republican Party? And like, they don't, like, see, media and Democrats, they don't acknowledge that, like, almost every single Democrat votes in line with the political party. And any Democrat that doesn't, like Tulsi Gabbard, for example, is immediately referred to as a Russian operative. It's pretty unbelievable. It's pretty unbelievable. Immediately referred to as a Russian operative. So Trump responded to the letters with a statement that put the agreement in doubt. Quote, no more money for rhinos. The Republicans in name only stated, quote, they do nothing but hurt the Republican Party and our great voting base. They will never lead us to greatness. He instead again urged his supporters to send their contributions directly to his own Save America PAC by using his personal website, adding, quote, we will bring it all back stronger than ever before. So I don't think that, I'm hoping President Trump comes back. It's interesting. You had 4 years of the sky is falling. Trump is a tyrant and a despot and authoritarian, and oh my God, look what he's doing to democracy. Look what he's tearing up the Constitution. He's a despot. He's an authoritarian. Oh, he's the most horrible human being who's ever existed. And now they have President Biden, and they're not getting anything they want. They're not even getting the stimulus check that he promised. And you talk about the stimulus check. Well, where were Republicans pushing to reopen the country? It was basically President Trump saying, yeah, we got to reopen this country. And Democrats who, like the states that have the highest unemployment rates with the worst outcomes, said, oh, you must listen to us. Because science. It's like, well, but you have the worst outcomes. The states that weren't as heavy-handed or draconian had better outcomes, much better outcomes, better per capita rates. The states that had the most heavy-handed policies have the greatest number of lives lost. Go to the New York Times statistics. You can see that. New York being the epicenter. New York being the epicenter, run only like a monopoly of political thought by Democrats. So, Scorp Target, hello. It's like, in his first major speech since leaving office, Trump urged his supporters to give money to the Save America's Political Action Committee instead of the GOP's traditional fundraising organizations. What? This is the thing. Like, I wouldn't be voting for any traditional Republican. I certainly wouldn't vote for a Democrat because I don't want never-ending conflict. And that's what, like, the Lincoln Project runs, unfortunately, or that mentality still is prevalent within the Democratic Party. You saw within a month what President Biden did, the wonderful President Biden. It took him only 1 month to engage in the same foreign policy tactic that his predecessors, that President Obama and Bush engaged in. So, it's interesting that they want to, like, I mean, you're talking about, like, these political entities, they want to derive every ounce of benefit from Trump. And it's like, look, he's made mistakes. Trump hasn't been perfect in terms of, like, he didn't have to say all the things that he did on Twitter. I mean, his Twitter presence really hurt him. Really hurt him. But it's like, in terms of accomplishments, we had record low unemployment throughout most of President Trump's tenure. The pandemic was not his fault. So you look at what Andrew Cuomo did in New York, or Whitmer in Michigan, or Phil Murphy in New Jersey. These places have the worst outcomes. The absolute worst outcomes. You can't blame Trump. They impeached President Trump after, and in terms of in the midterms, they knew there was no, like, they didn't have an actual scandal or controversy. They fabricated Trump Russia, and it benefited establishment Republicans like Paul Ryan and Ben Sasse and Mitt Romney and Richard Burr. It benefited Republicans to investigate Trump while at the same time, utilizing the energy and enthusiasm and electricity he brought to the political party. We would have 8 years of Clinton were it not for Trump. That's without a doubt. We would have, maybe 4 years. I mean, he would have. That would have been interesting. It would have been interesting, like, if, to see, and who knows what would have taken place. He did save us from 4 to 8 years of Clinton. There's no other Republican who could have defeated Clinton. Jeb Bush couldn't have. Like, the media will never again, ever again, I mean, until there's like some kind of paradigm change within American media, but media will never again give a Republican nominee or a Republican candidate media will never again give a Republican candidate an objective or fair coverage. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. You're not going to like all the coverage now for any Republican that actually becomes an obstacle to Democrats, like an actual rival. So when you see like journalists or pundits say, Republicans have to, and I'm a lifelong Democrat prior to 2016 or 2018. Like, but in 2015, I realized political parties are nefarious. Look what they railroaded Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders didn't say a word. He just he was okay with it. And then the same thing on Twitter. Oh, $15 minimum wage. And you're not going to get that. You got nothing. They got nothing. The progressives got nothing. And they don't run the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is run by people who voted for Clinton, who then voted for Biden. If you want to call them neoliberals, whatever you want to call them, I'm with her, whatever. Interesting, there's no supporter. There's no name for a supporter for Biden. There's Hillary bots and whatever. But you have President Trump now. The Republicans they have nothing else. So they have absolutely nothing else but Trump. And the reason is because he was a good president. He was able to do good things. But now they're stuck because Trump is obviously felt abandoned. So he was abandoned by the Republican Party. And now the Republicans have to look and they say, well, how on earth are we going to raise money? How on earth are we going to raise money? How on earth are we going to if you don't have the 45th president to tell your voters, hey, you know what? This is a political organization that saved you from 4 years of Clinton, presided over tremendous foreign policy accomplishments, because you can't do that with Bush. It used to be George W. Bush ran the GOP into the ground. He was the most miserably failed president. And Democrats are okay with Bush. They're like, oh yeah, he's a good president. He was a good, or he was okay. At least he wasn't Trump. It's like, what? At least, what does that mean? At least he wasn't Trump. You're okay with never-ending conflict based on intelligence failures? You're okay with all the horrendous things that took place during Bush's administration? Mainly, I mean, when you look at what he did, his administration did, the world is worse off. He left the world he destabilized an entire region of the world and ruined the lives of millions. That's not hyperbole. It's simply not hyperbole to say that. You can find people on the left, conservatives, anyone who will tell you. Do you think George W. Bush was the worst president that we've ever had, by far? By far. Hoover didn't do, you could say, well, the Great Depression. Well, yeah, and so Bush left us almost in that situation as well. It didn't take a great deal of courage to bail out banks. That's what President Obama did, but Bush started that. But that was during his tenure. And you say, well, it wasn't his fault. Okay, fine. The foreign policy was directly his fault. And it only got worse. We're in that region of the world. It's been 20 years now. And it was because of just horrendous decision making. And President Trump tried to get us out of that. President Trump tried to get us out of never-ending conflict. But he's the tyrant. This is interesting. He's the tyrant and despot because of his Twitter and because of his words. So, the world today revolves purely on it revolves only on public relations, or it gravitates or revolves around public relations, PR. That's it. So Trump's words make him a totalitarian and authoritarian, but he signed prison reform legislation, and he removed Americans from never-ending conflict. So you don't judge him based on that. You judge him in orange menace. Oh my goodness, Trump. And that's the thing. Like, the Republicans also don't have an actual message. How can you raise funds? Like, Democrats have media. They don't have a message either, but they have Hollywood. Democrats don't need to have a message. They have Hollywood. They have media. They have intel operatives who will side with them always. And still they have the smallest majority in Congress. Still. They have historically one of the smallest majorities in Congress. So it's like, what is it that it's like, what is it that you can actually, how do you communicate the benefits of the Republican Party? Well, are they going to end perpetual conflict in regions of the world we shouldn't even be in? Well, no, that's just Trump. Are they going to really protect the Second Amendment? Well, that's primarily Trump. As opposed to a never-Trumper who will just succumb to really whatever Democrats want. A great many of these never-Trumpers vote 90% along the line. Like 90% of their votes are along with Trump. The Democratic Party, what they do is they say, well, vote for us and we'll be better than the Republicans. So they don't get the minimum wage they want. Like the left-leaning voters, progressives, don't get the minimum wage they want. They don't get Medicare for all. They don't get Green New Deal legislation. They don't get universal basic income. They don't even get the stimulus checks that they were promised. They don't get anything. And then the excuse is, well, at least it's better than what Trump would do. And it's like, no, even people in Congress now are saying Trump would have wanted to give a lot more. He told McConnell. McConnell said, oh, yeah, $600 should be sufficient. Why not? Eric, hello. $600 should be sufficient. What's the problem? It's like, why would you... If your political opponent is saying, yeah, I'll give you $2,000, you see what's going on. They weren't serious. Or they lied. They weren't serious. They weren't, but at least they waited until they were in power. Then they said, well, we're not serious. Or we're not going to give you the checks that you wanted. We're not going to give you the stimulus checks that you wanted. And that another thing with the stimulus check, I keep on talking about this. It's like there was no pushback. Like, there's never any pushback. There's just never any pushback. There's no alternative political viewpoint. Like, whenever Democrats want a specific, when they want a specific either policy or when they want national dialogue to go in one direction, they have a tried and true plan to just get what they want. They say, well, experts agree with us. Experts agree with us. The Republicans never have any experts. Isn't that interesting? The Republican Party will never find conservatives. Apparently there are no experts. There are just no experts in medicine or academia or business that ever agree with Republicans. Isn't that interesting? That's pretty phenomenal, isn't it? My God almighty. There are just no experts. You're not going to find one expert Do you understand? No experts. Democrats, well, experts say. Really? Experts say this? You mean that every expert on the planet always sides with Democrats? Really? There are no conservative experts anywhere in the world? No attorneys that are conservative anywhere, really? Nobody in academia, no professors, really? And then they get the narrative going, whatever the narrative is, on social media, on Twitter. And ideas that normally wouldn't hold up to scrutiny in the real world begin a life of their own in cyberspace. That's why Democrats run Twitter, or their narratives run Twitter. Like, nobody's asking AOC or Schumer or Gillibrand or de Blasio. I mean, just maybe now they're asking Cuomo. Nobody until recently was asking any Democrat in New York, hey, why were you completely blindsided by the pandemic? Why, like, you had the absolute worst outcomes. You had Democrats presided over the worst outcomes, yet and they're still pontificating. Texas does its thing, and Democrats say, oh my God, that's a bad move. It's like, you didn't even give the stimulus check that people wanted, and you're still trying to stifle the economy. People take risks in life. Like, people are going to take risks in life, especially to feed their families and to create a better life for themselves. You can't, certain heavy-handed and draconian policies shouldn't have even been on the table the past year. I'll just leave it at that because of the algorithm, because of the guidelines. You can't allow one person or a group of experts or, you can't allow, there's just one train of thought, a political dialogue. Political discourse in this country runs through the lenses of oftentimes apoplectic, seething, fuming, disgruntled, angry, morally superior, indignant, outraged liberals. That's you. If you have a different viewpoint, you're making a moral decision. Like they've what they've done, since they actually have no specific policies that get their voters going. They don't have any specific policies. They're not. What they do is they say, well, we're on the side of morality. If you disagree with us, you're immoral. You lack character if you disagree with us. And then they point to Trump's personality and they say, if you support that person, oh my God, that says something about you. Meanwhile, they're okay with George W. Bush. And they're just fine with President Obama's NATO intervention. Like, they don't really care about decisions that impact the lives of hundreds of thousands, millions. They took a long time to get to any scrutiny against de Blasio. They took a long time. It was pretty unbelievable. Pretty unbelievable. It's interesting too, like, when you look at what President Trump offers, the good thing about Trump is that he simply doesn't care about he simply doesn't care about, like, all the sacred cows that Democrats and media worship. He doesn't care about political correctness. He doesn't care about... And when Democrats are caught, saying or writing things that are offensive. They demand empathy, they demand forgiveness, or they beg for forgiveness, and they get the empathy that they wouldn't give others. But Republicans are like, the Republican Party doesn't really stand for anything. It's actually Trump that's propping it up. Otherwise, you'd have Mitt Romney. What on earth does this man stand for? I don't know. Like, how would he be different from Biden in terms of foreign policy? How would he be different from Biden in terms of, like, would he be okay with the Trans-Pacific Partnership? What was his? He wouldn't have engaged in the tariffs in the manner that Trump did. Would he have pushed for the USMCA? I don't know. It's not really like, let's see, Romney. You definitely, this is Forbes, July 29, 2016. Why the next U.S. president will support the Trans-Pacific Partnership? Nope, and that Trump didn't. So, I think he backed Trump on opposing the TPP. But anyway, in terms of foreign policy, he would side with Democrats on foreign policy. He'd side with Democrats on foreign policy. If the wonderful intel community tried to push a certain type of foreign policy or a certain type of domestic policy now, because they're pushing domestic policy, it's like you're not going to get any pushback from an establishment Republican. So, and that's the issue here. I mean, that's the issue. That's the issue. You're not really going to get anything different in terms of, like, President Trump offered people an alternative. What happened was, the alternative became more about personality. Maybe not, if you look at policies, it was still about, President Trump presided over foreign policy accomplishments. And you look at, like, there were accomplishments even in the past year, even though he was given no credit for anything. But at the end of the day, what happened is they made it all about President Trump's personality. They made it all about his personality. And then that's unfortunately what happened. They made it about Trump's personality. His opposition within the Republican Party made it about personality. And it just and Republicans didn't defend Trump. In some cases, I can understand, like, maybe they couldn't because they didn't know how to, or in many cases they didn't want to. But now they want to raise money through his likeness, through his image, through his brand. Despite the letters, the RNC and others have continued to fundraise off of Trump's name. Congratulations, you've been the first selected as one of the first to be invited to claim your Trump Legacy membership. The RNC wrote in one appeal on Sunday, Trump Legacy membership. Oh my God. This is hilarious. yes! I was like, oh my goodness. Yes! Bam, out of nowhere. Here's your stimulus bill. Thank you. Thank you, WW. Giving H.A. Goodman the W. Thank you, WW. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate that very much. And that's the thing with the stimulus, WW. That's the thing. It's like if you're a political party, you pushed to shut down the entire economy. And then you say, well, we had to. Science. It's like, well, but the worst outcomes took place in states that have the highest unemployment rate. How does that happen? They don't look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's pretty simple. You can look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay? I mean, I have the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the link, in every single one. WW, thank you again. I have the Bureau of Labor Statistics in every single one of my segments. Here, unemployment rates by states. And it's still December 2020. The highest unemployment rates, 10.3%. December 2020. Actually, I think they updated it. New York has the fourth highest with 8.7%. Hawaii, 10.3%. California, 9.3%. District of Columbia, 8.8%. New York, 8.7% unemployment. And they have the worst outcomes in terms of the pandemic. So how do you get away? How does Cuomo write a book? WW, everybody here, how does he write a book on the pandemic? New Mexico, 8.6% unemployment. Massachusetts, 8.4%. Nevada, 8.2% unemployment. Michigan, 8.2% unemployment. Connecticut, 8.2% unemployment. Illinois, 8.2% unemployment. Rhode Island, 8% unemployment. Then you have Louisiana, but then you have New Jersey, 7.7% unemployment. Pennsylvania, 7.1% unemployment. Okay? And Texas has 6.9%, but they're like, you know what? They're all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're 15th highest unemployment rate, but 13 of the top 14 are all Democratic-run states. WW, hello. Thank you again. WW, thank you again. Greatly, greatly appreciated. They'll circle back to you. Will, hello. Exactly. They'll circle back to my questions. They'll just circle back. How do you have how do you, the Republican Party can look at this, they simply can't, they don't know how to look at data and say, okay, we're doing a lot better. In South Dakota, Utah, Nebraska, Iowa, Idaho, Montana, Missouri, Oklahoma, these have the lowest unemployment rates. Indiana, Alabama, Kansas. South Dakota has a 3.3% unemployment rate. Okay? A 3.3% unemployment rate. Utah, 3.3%. Nebraska, 3.4%. Alabama, 4.7%. I mean, you can't, as a political party, you simply can't communicate this. And Trump, he could have thrown Cuomo under the bus, really. I mean, he really could have. He could have said, look, when he was being, what happened, okay, Jonathan Swan of Axios treated Trump in a manner he would never treat Andrew Cuomo or any Democrat. And he kept saying, oh, look at the national per capita rate. It's like, yeah, well, go to the New York. Trump could have simply said, yeah, but New York, New Jersey, other states are leading the country in terms of per capita rates. How on earth is that my fault? How on earth is the economy overall my fault? How on earth the total 7 of the top 11 states, and during that Axios interview, Democrats they dominated the top 10 in terms of per capita, and in terms the top 4 highest per capita rates are in Democratic-run states. Frankenstein! How do you deny a lawsuit? It's interesting. Frankenstein, thank you. They're simply refusing to. I don't think it's officially a lawsuit yet, but the cease and desist was for them, Frankenstein, to stop using Trump's likeness. And Trump basically said, hey, wait a second, you didn't stand by me for the past 4 years. Now you're going to raise money utilizing my name. So Frankenstein, all they said was, A, we have the First Amendment that allows us. So it's like, what? First Amendment? What are you talking about? First Amendment doesn't allow you to use, pick any top athlete or basketball player, baseball player, football player, whatever. You can't just simply say, oh, Tom Brady loves my product. Look, Tom Brady uses this product that I'm selling. And then you can't say, oh, it's just First Amendment? Can't use somebody's likeness against their will. You can't just simply claim First Amendment rights to do so. So that's what they're claiming. And Benjamin, hello. And it's interesting because now Trump, he's pretty much in the driver's seat. I mean, you had Lindsey Graham today saying, oh, yeah, he can really make or break the Republican Party. And, it's too bad that Trump has so much control. It's like, no, is there an alternative? I mean, Ron DeSantis is very good, actually, but he's not an alternative to Trump. Rand Paul is fantastic. He's not an alternative to Trump. Rand Paul would be a fantastic alternative if perhaps, I don't know, there's a certain charisma that Trump has. You can say, well, oh my goodness, I can't stand his personality, like a lot of people. And he went overboard. Okay, he went overboard, especially on social media. But there's something that President Trump has that nobody, no Democrat, no Republican has. And he's able to, he's gaining in stature. The more we have President Biden, the better Trump looks. That's not even, that's not an understatement. Every single day. FL! Thank you. Keep it up. You have great knowledge and more need to hear your message. Trump 2024. Thank you, FL. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated, FL. Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, FL. You look at what President Trump accomplished, and the Republicans did not champion or try to, they didn't praise him at all. There should be some kind of, there should be some praise or fanfare or some kind, being the first president to step foot in North Korea is a paradigm-changing moment. Do you think President Biden is anywhere close to any type of, what is his foreign policy aside from continuing the failed policies of President Obama and Bush? What on earth is his foreign policy? FL, thank you again. It's like, you have President Biden, they spent 4 years stomping their feet and, yelling at the top of their lungs and, oh my God, and hey, oh, Trump is so horrible. Oh, let's fact check every single word he says. Where are the obsessive, manic, maniacal, fact-checking journalists? New York Times, President Biden faces challenge from Surge. Oh, he does? Wow. Biden German Shepherd has aggressive incident and is sent back to Delaware. If it was Trump, oh my God, Trump canine Cujo, oh my God, Trump, oh my God, he raised his pets to go after rival Democrats, no. Biden's German Shepherd has aggressive incident. CNN. Wow. I don't think Frankenstein. Yes, I think Eric H526. I think I addressed that. Yeah, Frankenstein. FL. Thank you. I think I missed FL at first. Frankenstein. Yeah, basically, it's a cease and desist, so it's not a lawsuit yet. Not a lawsuit yet. So they just refuse to not use his likeness, which is bizarre. Because they're like, oh, we have the First Amendment. GTO Mama, hello. But it's like everything now is so subdued. They give him the best because they got, oh my God, they got exactly what they wanted. Oh, this is interesting. I should have talked about that. Biden sued by 12 states over climate executive order. That's another issue as well. It's like, well, the left wants the Green New Deal legislation. So that's become a religion. Like so many. Restoring science to tackle the climate crisis. Restoring science. Now that Trump is gone, we can restore science. Because everything's linked to... Everything we say is moral and rooted in fact and reality. But actually, if you disagree, you're immoral. Well, but there's a question. We're going to erase you from history. Okay. This ought to help the economy. This ought to really help the economy. This is fantastic. He does this, by the way, when I want to get into it. I'm reading the... I don't even want to get into... You know what? It's going to be... Travis, thank you. UMRA, thank you. Travis, thank you. Thank you very much, Travis. Thank you, Travis. Greatly appreciated. Frankenstein, greatly appreciated. Thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Frankenstein and Travis. Thank you. Thank you, Frankenstein. Thank you very much. It's interesting now, you have Twitter that is, because they don't have Trump, because they just don't have Trump, to obsess over, they are now stuck with their own warped ideology on things. Frankenstein, thank you so very, very much. Frankenstein, very kind of you. Thank you. They're now stuck with their warped ideology on things. You look at, I'm trying to, news about Biden, everything is, oh, this is good. End of pandemic finally in sight. Biden administration hopes. Really? Wow, what a difference, 4 or 5 months make. Wow. When it was Trump, it was the sky is falling. Trump this, Trump that. Oh my God. You know, Trump, he worked with this. He worked with Putin. Yeah. And he knew. He did nothing. He downplayed. And then they did this thing where Republicans never defended their own president. They played this semantic game where they said Trump downplayed, and we took it seriously. Yeah, Andrew Cuomo took it so seriously that he presided over, and his decisions led to the worst outcomes. Wow, so serious. So serious. Democrats have the worst outcomes, but they take it the most seriously. How does that work? There's no pushback also, by the way. That's my point. There's no pushback. The Republicans are completely inept. And they're they just never push back. They never push back. Gonzalez 131. It would be fantastic. That would actually be. I would enjoy that. And now every time Biden's press secretary, I'll get back to you on that. I'll soon circle back on that. Get back to you on that. I'll get back to you on that. New poll: Americans largely back Biden's response. Well, that's interesting. Maybe because he has almost universally favorable media coverage. What do you expect? This was the playbook against Trump. Media hysteria followed by a poll. What do you expect? What do you expect? And that even in the first 4 or 5 months, about the first 3 months of the pandemic, it didn't work. People were actually standing by President Trump. But then the continual obsession with Trump, didn't work out. It just Twitter was a trap. But the playbook against Trump was the following: media hysteria, the worst coverage possible, the absolute worst coverage, followed by a whole bunch of polls. Well, what on earth of course you're going to have. And still it was the numbers in terms of the polling data didn't show that Americans were that public sentiment differed with Trump on a whole bunch of things. Even then it was still Trump was actually doing okay. What happened was towards when obviously the last year was uncharted territory. The last year was uncharted territory. So you were going to have a situation that no president. Well, let's put it this way: if you had a political party that backed you, it would be different. Like I said, all Democrats do. Here's the public relations blueprint for any Republican, not just Trump. A barrage of negative coverage from the Washington Post, the New York Times, and every subsidiary publication. Daily Beast, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone, Mother Jones, The Nation. Then you have opinions in the Los Angeles Times and major publications throughout the country. You have like maybe one paper, the New York Post, backing Trump. The Wall Street Journal's doesn't really want to back Trump on things, but sometimes does. And then, longs for what? An establishment Republican to do what? To make people fall asleep. So you have a barrage and never-ending stream of negative stories, apoplectic, hysterical, seething, fuming, indignant, outraged journalists that talk about the moral implications of Trump's actions and what he's capable of and what he could be up to, and it's just never-ending. It's never. Then experts say, then you have stories. Current and former U.S. officials. You will never have a current and former U.S. official that will disagree with Biden. You better believe that will never happen. You will never have a former State Department employee or former Pentagon official, or you will never get that. And so you will just never ever get that. So you will not get that. But you have a whole bunch of, it could be any topic, any situation, any subject matter, negative news stories, experts agreeing with Democrats. Democrats will find a group of experts, and experts will say, or intelligence officials say, or former government employees say, and of course they'll disagree with Trump. And then Trump on Twitter did himself no good because he was like, well, what do I care about these officials? Pete Solano, thank you. Pete Solano, hello. And then they say, could you see what Trump said? Oh my God, did you see what Trump said? That's horrible. That's terrible. Really horrible and terrible. Oh my goodness. And then you get the polls. Then you get the surveys. Most Americans disagree with Trump. Really? You think maybe the 2 weeks of non-stop, apoplectic, hysterical news coverage painting Trump as the worst person who's ever existed in the history of humanity? You think maybe that had anything to do with public opinion? Maybe. And the Republicans are nothing. They say nothing. Gosh, it's really bizarre how he's so divisive. I love that. That's something I love. He's so divisive. You really, yeah. You know what? I never cared about President Trump's Twitter presence up until recently, only because like he didn't have to. He shouldn't have insulted LeBron James. He shouldn't have insulted NFL athletes. There are things that he shouldn't have done because it did him no good and it did the country no good. He should have pushed for a national dialogue or debate or discourse. And you know what? If somebody goes after him, it's okay. It's okay. Don't always push back or issue a rebuttal, a kind of counterpunch. You don't always have to do that because President Trump allocated more funding to HBCUs than any president ever signed prison reform legislation. We had record low unemployment throughout most of his tenure. All of that is overshadowed now. All of that is overshadowed. You have, when you are able to engage in really amazing things, or when you're when you accomplish great things like President Trump accomplished, when you're able to accomplish those great things and you're not given credit for them, that's a problem. That's a real problem. It's if you're not given credit for the political accomplishments, .com, thank you. And that's the thing. He was never given credit. He was just never given credit. Like, when times were good, look, in 2018, 2019, in 2019, you had, in the beginning of 2020, you had a situation where times were good for a lot of people. And instead of Republicans saying, hey, you might not like his personality, but you know what? He's doing good things. You might not like his personality, but he's doing good things. It was always like Mitt Romney condemns Trump. And it's like Eric condemns, oh my goodness, condemnation. Oh, it's like his words in this day and age, your words, like the knock on, they tried to go after Rush Limbaugh when he passed away, and they said, well, Rush Limbaugh said this. Yeah, but did he do the things that Bill Clinton or Bush did or President Obama did in terms of foreign policy? He might have advocated for President Bush's foreign policy, that's true. But how is he more detrimental to the world because of the things he said than the things that were done and actually implemented by George W. Bush? Like, you're okay if you're a liberal Democrat, you're okay with George W. Bush, but you're really against Rush Limbaugh. Why? Because he's mean. And mean people, horrible people, you're judged by whether or not you're a nice person. But you wouldn't judge the Clintons that way. They've said and done, problematic things. They pick, like, Democrats and wonderful, morally superior, a great many morally superior liberals will judge you in a manner. They'll judge people. They'll judge their political rivals or opposition in a manner they would never judge themselves. And now they call that whataboutism, but it's really, it's like, it's like, Nicoletta, thank you. They judge people in a manner that they want to be judged. And they love condemnation. They love condemning and passing judgment upon others. It really gets them going. It's like the best thing for them. They just love to condemn. That's a new. That's one of the worst things about our world today, and it's a repercussion of cyberspace. And this, like, Twitter has been used as a political tool, really just a political tool by Democrats. It's really just a political tool. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much. To my super chat, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Have a great, great evening. And, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back. I should have a live stream later tomorrow evening. And, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for staying up for the live stream. Eric and Luke, Thanks for being amazing moderators. I'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Check out the uploads, and thank